Hello, everybody. Tracy Mrs. JDog Flanagan with you here today. I'm the co-founder and senior vice president at JDog Brands. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Tactical Treasures podcast sponsored by the JDog Foundation. Our podcast gives the military community a voice in the veteran space to share their stories of service, how they continue to make a difference in civilian life, and they share with me a tactical treasure that has shaped their journey in their military career, business, or life. Today, I am honored to speak with Suzette Heller. A Detroit native, Suzette served in the U.S. Army and Michigan National Guard from 1993 to 2005. She holds an undergraduate degree in psychology from the University of Michigan and a master's in legal studies of nonprofit law from Trinity Law School. A proud Save a Warrior alumni, Cohort 0031, since 2017, Suzette has dedicated her career to veteran service. Her extensive leadership includes serving as the Director of Veterans Affairs and Rehabilitation and Department Adjutant for the American Legion Department of Ohio. She is a life member of the Disabled American Veterans and remains active in several veteran and fraternal organizations, including AMVETS and the American Legion and Auxiliary. As Director of Development, Suzette brings a lifelong passion for advocacy and philanthropy to the team of excellence at Save a Warrior, continuing her mission to support veterans and first responders. Hello, Suzette. Thank you for joining me on Tactical Treasures podcast. And thank you so much for your service to our country, ma'am.
Hi, Tracy. Happy New Year.
Happy New
It
Year
was an
to you
honor.
too.
Yep.
Um, so we have a lot to discuss here. I'm very excited to talk about Save a Warrior. Before we get into that, though, I do have just a couple questions about your military career. So I would love to know what inspired you to join the Army.
Well, that's a wonderful question. So I had a grandfather who served in the Navy, but also, I was from a town right outside Detroit, born and raised in Detroit, and I just, from a very early age, I struggled. I mean, I really struggled. I came from a family that at times could be somewhat abusive, and I really wasn't that great in school, and I tended to lean more towards hanging out with people I probably shouldn't have. And but I always had this desire and passion really to get an education. I was a hairdresser when I was young. I was a car hop at this little A&W at the end of my street, which was a lot of fun. But I just always had this desire and this passion just to do something greater. I had friends that went off into the military, and I was kind of one of those non-conventional. I kind of did everything non-conventional, really, but I was one of those non-conventional people who went into the military at the age of 22. So it was June of 22. Really, I was just realizing that education was going to cost a lot of money. And I couldn't seem to get ahead is what my experience was. And so I had talked to a Navy recruiter like years prior, shortly after high school, and I was kind of hemming and hawing about it. And and to be honest with you, as a woman, the naval recruiters, not saying anything about Navy or anything, but they wanted the men. This
Mm.
was late 80s, and they were like more interested in recruiting men at that time than they were women. So I ended up in the Army recruiting office. I wanted to be an MP. That was the goal, and pursue a career of being a police officer, law enforcement. However, they informed me that I wasn't tall enough,
No.
yeah, so there was always, I would say from a very early age, there was always this dialogue of like not being good enough, not not fitting in, you don't
Mm.
belong over here, not tall enough, then there's also that dialogue, that we hear as children, from the environment that we're raised in. But I had this woman recruiter and she was just amazing. And she had these pictures on her desk, and it looked really nice and fun and exciting. And yeah, and she recruited me into the Army. And I was 22 years old. It was probably around December 92. And I left in June of 93.
Oh,
And
wow.
it was wonderful. Yeah, it was a great experience. I ended up
Yeah.
being food service. That was
Okay.
because I was in the restaurant business. It was just kind of a second nature thing, and they were offering bonuses as well. And I
Oh,
had really
wow.
good scores. I had good ASVAB scores. I
Mm.
was above I think I was like a 115 on the ASVAB, and yeah, they just threw me right in the kitchen,
Oh,
Tracy.
that's great.
But I will
So,
tell you, I loved it. I
uh,
absolutely loved it because it was, and I became airborne in air assault.
oh,
So, and
wow.
I got promoted really quick. Basic training for me was, and you're probably going to ask this anyway, but it was definitely challenging. I was a little on the heavy side. And so, yeah, but it was a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a great segue into my next question, which
Sure.
is there a particular aspect or moment from your service that kind of stood out as being impactful in a positive way for you?
Absolutely, and that was in basic training. I really didn't realize the extent of my physical capability.
Mm.
I didn't really play a lot of sports in high school, and so I just didn't know the limitations or the possibilities of my physical capabilities. And I will never forget, we had this, a drill sergeant, Sergeant Johnson was her name, but when it came time to do the ropes course, and the I don't know exactly what it's called, but they have the it's like the challenge course where you have to climb all the things and
Hmm.
walk the planks and all those things. So when it came to that, you know, I didn't realize I had such physical capability. And so being able to do that, I was just like, wow, like no one had ever really encouraged me, or really actually, I would say, really believed in me, in a
Right.
sense of what it was that I was possible of doing. I didn't have any of that as a young person growing up. I had
Right.
two brothers who were 8 and 9 years younger than me, and my
Hmm.
sister and I kind of became their pseudo parents, because our parents always worked, and so you know um experiencing that really opened up a whole lot for me, especially a whole lot of confidence and
Sure.
and
Yeah.
possibility of what I was capable of doing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that.
Thank
Um,
you.
so I would love to know what your transition was like when you finally, got out from your bio. Schooling definitely happened.
Yeah.
College so, but I would love to know what your journey was like when you transitioned out.
I served 93 to 97, my first active duty. And then I did almost probably 6.5, almost 7 years of National Guard time. And then I went back to active duty in 04, 05. And I will
Oh,
tell
wow.
you, it was a different military, but
Mm.
I had some physical challenges as well. And my last, when I got out in June of 2005, um, yeah, I really struggled. I'd been divorced. My daughter was with her father. I'd been divorced twice by now.
Mm.
My daughter was with her father in Michigan. And my brother, I got a Red Cross call in '04, and my brother had passed away, my youngest brother, and
Oh,
I
no.
really struggled. I mean, I really struggled. And at that time, you know, like most people who struggle, I was always looking for something to cover that up. Just I
Sure.
had a lot of internal pain that was happening, and I was looking for a way to cover that up. And I found that in alcohol, you know,
Mm,
and
right.
um, yeah, and it was tough, and I just found myself, drinking all the time, and no regard. I really something happened along the way, and I just really had no regard for my life, or really for anybody who was closest to me,
Mm,
you know. And yeah, and so I struggled like that for probably, when I got out in June of '05, um, it was November 1st that I actually got sober. Yeah.
wow.
And I've been sober ever since.
Right. Well,
So
good for you. Good for
thank
you.
you. Yeah, it's a
Um,
beautiful thing.
yeah. So, is that what led you to Save a Warrior? Because you went through the program
Hmm.
yourself, obviously before you became a part of it. Is that how did you find your way there?
Well, you know, in 2005 really started my recovery journey. Like within months of my military career coming to an end. And I used my GI Bill. I was going to Michigan full time. I made a career out of getting an education.
Mm,
I really took advantage of those benefits.
sure.
And I started doing a lot of advocacy. And so I was in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's really where I got my foundation on recovery, is
Mhm.
those 12 steps, finding rooms of dialogue that talks about healing and experiences, and you know um how to live a new life without substances, without
Right.
covering up. Yeah. So and then I ended up at Michigan. I applied, I got in. I was going to University of Michigan Dearborn at that time. Veteran, the whole student veteran. Yeah, that was really interesting now that I
Mhm.
really look back on it. But the student veteran population at that time, um, there were a lot of veterans who were transitioning out of the military. And I will say that for-profit colleges, even not-for-profit colleges, some were really taking advantage of the benefits that veterans had. And so there really was this ill regard, these consistent deployments, and the warriors that were coming on campus, they never even had time to heal. They never, there was no real transition for them, because the transition um, program at that time was not very it wasn't very good. And I don't think the military really felt like it was their responsibility. Once you're off the roster, of being on active duty,
Mm,
go to the VA. And a lot of folks didn't even know they had VA benefits.
right.
Long story short, I got involved in Student Veterans of America. I think it was 2006 or seven. I was like a year or two into, and I there was always this different line. So veterans always had to go. We couldn't register for our classes the same way as everybody else. You had a different line to go in. So there was a certifying official at every college, and that was usually somebody who got tasked with that position, that already
Right.
had a full-time
Hmm.
position, right? So, you know, and as a veteran, I could always tell who the veterans were on campus. And so I started to notice this, and I started to notice that, there was this community of us who were really just trying to kind of fit in to getting higher education. And we needed that money too. Like, that money was our survival,
Mm,
right? But a lot of schools would sign veterans up for full time, and they weren't capable of handling a full time class load, right? But
Right.
they needed that money to survive, because you go from having something to having absolutely nothing. You have a roof over your head, you have food, and then you get out, and all those, the military is no longer taking care of you.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, I started advocating with Student Veterans of America, and we were, as a group, it was very grassroots at the time. We were starting chapters all across the nation, and I saw a lot of challenges firsthand. And there are some veterans who, ended up leaving, and yeah, I still think about them today and just wonder what happened to them, and I hope that they're okay. And but we
Right.
would make actual phone calls to the Department of Education for them, because they just didn't know how to navigate the system. So I
Right.
learned early on how to be an advocate,
Yeah.
how to help other people through this system, because I was also a work study student. And so I would just eat, sleep, and breathe, scholarships, grants, benefits, and so then I just became an advocate for other people, helping them. And then it was about creating space for veterans on campus, whether that be a room or a section or something. And we started developing these chapters all over the United States. And there was, honestly, it was shocking to see and experience higher education not wanting, or not, I wouldn't say not wanting, but not being willing to support space for veterans in their campuses.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, the
Yeah.
rejection of veterans, in a sense, or
Right.
just not acknowledging, you know.
So,
So,
so all of that kind
mhm.
of sort of prepared you for what you're doing right now at Save a Warrior as
Yes,
the
yes.
director of development.
Yep, yep.
Can you talk to me a little
Well,
bit about that role?
sure. I was working for the American Legion at the time, because that's where I um that's the organization that really just kind of took me under their wing, and I was legislating for this space and for student veteran benefits and veteran benefits in Michigan, actually. And the Legion, all the guys with the funny hats, right? From MOPH to VFW to Legion to AMVETS. But at the State House were all the guys with the funny hats,
Mm,
and it was kind of like, who are you and who are you? Because I really didn't know the veteran service organization culture. I wasn't a member of anything. And they really just took me under their wing and just, mentored me. And when I graduated, I ended up going to work for the American Legion Department of Michigan. I was an advocate, I was a veteran service officer,
right.
and then learned how to do benefits,
Hmm.
um, and that led me to Ohio. I came to work for the American Legion Department of Ohio, and I was the director of legislation, veterans affairs, and rehabilitation and national security. And I'm on my way to the office, and there's a radio segment, and it's Jake Clark, and he is speaking about this group called Save a Warrior, and this was in 2016. So now I've been sober since 2005.
Right.
I've been an active member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I've been sponsoring women. I've been helping veterans, always looking for the resources, always looking for ways to leave it better than how I found it, right? That
Sure.
was kind of just the principles that I live by. And, you know, myself and a colleague of mine heard his radio segment, and I was like, what is this? So I reached out, and I invited them into the Legion Ohio department headquarters. And we had this wonderful conversation. Now, I heard something that he'd been saying, like I could hear the language, and I've come to realize that language is everything.
Right.
But I could hear the language of recovery, of healing, of transformation, of, there was just something different about this program compared to all the other programs that I'd been familiar with. So at that time, they were not serving women, but they had paused the women's program, and they had a men's program. And so my boss and a colleague of mine went to that cohort in 2016 in December. They call it the December to Remember cohort.
Mm-hmm.
But I kept asking, Jake, do you have any of those seats for women? And eventually they did. And I ended up doing an equine experience. It was a blended model of Save a Warrior with equine, heavy on the equine, um, and there were women alumni there who had already been through the program. There was some of us that were new that had never been to this program, and that was in Bandera, Texas, and that was over 5 days, and it was in August of 2017. And I got to say, I went there as like a witness. I went there with the intention of like, I want to see what this program's about, but I had no idea that they were going to ask of me to talk about so much of my childhood,
Mm.
and I was just like, oh, like I thought I had addressed all that,
Right.
or just this is just the way it is, and I didn't think there was anything more to that I had to endure, and I was completely wrong. And so, that was really kind of a aha moment of really looking. And so then I just remained an alumni of the program, an ambassador, and I got really involved in the sponsorship part, sponsoring people who needed help from drugs and alcohol so they could come through the program. And Jake Clark, Dr. Jake Clark, God bless him, he courted me probably for about 6 years. He kept trying to, ever since the day I met him, he would, kind of um, encourage me to come on over to Save a Warrior and, come work with them. And I was like, no, but I'll get you guys funding and I'll participate as an alumni. But, so we just maintained a friendship and a relationship, professional, personal relationship. And, then they finally moved all operations into Ohio because they had been doing cohorts in Malibu, California. And they moved all operations into Ohio after the fires in California and due to the pandemic.
Mm.
And they had gotten a Warrior Village. Actually, that was in 17. They had gotten Warrior Village in Newark. And it was the old Longaberger estate. Remember the Longaberger baskets?
Yes, yes, I do.
Yes. So, I just really stayed involved, and then they sold that property, and we were gifted another property in Hillsboro, which really allowed it. We couldn't really develop at the Newark location in the manner that we needed to. And so the Hillsboro, Ohio, which is an hour east of Cincinnati, that location allowed us to really, expand the program in a sense that we were able to build the first ever National Center of Excellence for complex post traumatic stress. And that's really, I came to work for Save a Warrior in 2023, and there had been some revisions to the program, some additions, but I witnessed a female cohort in March of 2023. And I got to tell you, it blew my hair back. I it so profoundly touched me in a way that just the way that the traumas are processed that I didn't experience in 2017. The program that I went to at that time, that session was not designed. Didn't have all the components to it that this cohort had that I witnessed in March of 2023. And for somebody who had 16, 17 years of sobriety at that time, I didn't know that there was still more, underneath the surface.
Right.
Yeah. And it was just amazing. Our program really is something incredible.
Right.
But all of that led me to doing development,
And
all my past
and
experiences.
what exactly do you do as the director of
Hello,
development?
viewers and listeners. Are you a military veteran or military family member and looking to own your own business? If so, go to jdog.com and check out our two veteran focused franchises, JDog Junk Removal and Hauling and JDog Carpet Cleaning and Floor Care. Our franchisees nationwide are always looking to hire fellow veterans and patriots. JDog is the world's largest military franchise system with hundreds of locations nationwide. We are nearly 90% veteran owned with the goal of reducing the veteran unemployment rate to under 1%. Check us out. Go to jdog.com to learn more. Now, back to the podcast.
Well, I do a large majority of the fundraising,
Hmm.
and relationship building. Oh, I'm always looking for opportunities and possibilities, and um, you know, we have some really great partners, especially Disabled American Veterans
Hmm.
Charitable Service Trust. They're a strategic partner of ours, and Disabled American Veterans really has a listening for the kind of work that we're doing. And but we're I see it like this. People are going to donate to many programs, right? People are going to donate to programs, and there's a lot of programs out there that really aren't making a difference.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of programs out there that do some really great things as well. And but people are going to donate anyway. So I I love connecting people and partners to Save a Warrior, because if you're going to donate to something, um, wouldn't you want to donate to a program that, by donating to our program, there's this possibility, we call it others having gotten. And you cannot be connected to this program without being able to witness some kind of transformation, or a transformation in your own life, just by being connected. So, um, that's what I do. I give people the opportunity and the possibility to be a part of transformation in people's lives, and to experience that for themselves, because there's this principle that happens. It's almost like a spiritual principle. It's kind of hard to explain, but um you cannot be a part of this without experiencing something greater than yourself, if that makes sense.
Right.
And we're not faith-based,
Yeah.
but but just to see the second and third order effects of what occurs is just really, it's I really wouldn't want to be doing anything else,
Right.
you know. Yeah.
So just like a couple more questions. So,
Sure.
is there a cost involved for the veteran to get involved in your program? Um,
There is not.
okay, okay. And are you guys nonprofit,
We are.
501(c)(3)? Okay.
Yep.
And how, if somebody, heard about your program and they think, wow, I really think I wanted to try this or whatever, what is the best way? Like, is there a criteria? Do they apply? And then
Mhm.
based on that application, they get chosen for the program? Is that how that works?
Yeah. Very that's a good description of it. But so there's no cost to our program. It's free for veterans. And we we do ask that you get yourself to Warrior Village. There's always that piece of having some kind of skin in the game.
Sure.
So that we used to pay for people to come to our program. We used to pay for their flights and stuff, but
Mhm.
what happened is people would then just ghost us. And so if there's a little bit of investment on your part,
Sure.
you're more apt to actually show up. But we take care of everything.
Hmm.
From the moment you get there, you don't worry about anything. The lodging, the food, the materials. So we have so many supplies of things that if you forgot something, I'm sure we have it.
Right.
So, yeah, it's 72 hours.
Hmm.
And how somebody would come to our program is they'd go to saveawarrior.org/apply. And there's going to be some questions there. And, you have to answer those questions honestly. And so you answer the questions, and then you'll get an email back. Once you submit the application, there's a little button on the bottom that says submit. And so you would submit that application. You'll get an email back. You would select a time for what we call a rostering call.
Hmm.
And the rostering process really is just to determine if Save a Warrior is a right fit for you.
Right.
Yeah. And I will say, what's a right fit? Well, we're dealing with complex post-traumatic stress. And that's two things. It's developmental trauma with moral injury collapsed on top of it.
Hmm.
So we know what the problem is, and we know what's holding the problem in place. And so if people are not willing to be vulnerable, we find that some people kind of dance around a little bit, like, maybe they dance around whether they drink too much, or maybe they dance around what their childhood really was like.
Mm.
Um, and we're not asking you to divulge everything in that phone call, but there is this acknowledgement of that, yeah, there's a problem, or yeah, I did experience that. And so if you're willing to be vulnerable, if you're done suffering, I mean, that really is you really,
Right.
we're kind of the last house on the block in a sense.
Mm.
When people are just sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they've come to the end of themselves in a sense of like, I've tried everything and I cannot figure this thing out. And a lot of us are on a journey of death and despair, due to our own decisions that we're making. And um, we may not really want to commit suicide. We may not really want to take our life. But, we may be living as if there's just no regard for it.
Right.
You know, we've just succumbed to this life of death and despair.
Yeah.
And, we just think that this is how it's supposed to be.
And that's when Save a Warrior comes in, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have people who are at very different, when they come to the end of themselves like that, they're in very different places,
Sure.
a
Sure.
variety of different places.
Right.
Yeah. And it takes a lot of courage to, throw up your hands and be like, that's it. I'm done. I'm actually going to go take some responsibility for my healing
Hmm.
and do something about this. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Suzette, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing everything that you did. And I've I've been to your website, and it's
Hmm.
quite the journey of research, but it's sounds like an amazing program. Um, but we've come to the time where I have to ask you a very important question, because we are the Tactical Treasures podcast. So I have to ask you, what is your tactical treasure that you would like to share with us today? Something that has helped you in your journey, that is still with you today.
My tactical treasure would be consistency.
Mm.
Being consistent, being my word, doing what I say I'm going to do, be where I say I'm going to be. But, you know, even though we all kind of, I tend to veer sometimes, maybe a little too much to the right, maybe a little too much to the left, but I always catch myself, before it's too late, and I'm able to just have consistency in my life of a spiritual practice, of prayer, having a God of my understanding, having something greater than myself, having a relationship. And that really is my tactical treasure, is knowing that I don't worry, I don't worry, because I know that there's something greater than me that is maybe orchestrating and is going to take care of what needs to be taken care of. I just do my part, I do my part as consistently as I can. And yeah, and I just give the rest to God, really.
It's a great
Yeah.
tactical treasure. I love it.
Yeah.
I can
Thank
totally
you.
relate. um,
Yeah.
so, just a few more questions before we
Sure.
wrap up our time here. So, any advice for fellow veterans struggling? And I know Saul can help with that. Um,
Yeah.
but any other nuggets of advice that you may have for them?
Um, yeah. A lot of suffering a lot of suffering that I experienced was in my head. Like, um, it wasn't as bad as I imagined it to be. Do you know
Hmm.
what I mean? And
Yeah.
it was temporary,
Hmm.
if but I was going to continue on that same path if I didn't do something about it. And um but I really have to ask myself, because I can be addicted to chaos and drama. And there's a component to that, because that's the house I lived in when I was a kid. There was always this chaos and drama, and so for me, I had to come to the end of myself, and to really want help. And so I would say that if there is somebody out there listening to this, and you are sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you want some change in your life, but you don't know how to do it, just go to saveawarrior.org/apply and apply to our program, because we're just going to love on you, and we're going to tell you the truth. That's first and foremost.
Mm.
We are truth tellers.
Right.
And you're going to experience something that you would have never thought possible. And transformation is a very real thing. And the life I live today is not something I could have imagined for myself. The inner peace that I feel inside is not something I could have ever done for myself.
Mm.
If I could have changed my life, I would have done it, but I clearly could not
Right.
on my own.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and you'll have a group of people that you get to walk through life with for the rest of your life. The 500-day plan, the ability to just give back, the way you show up for your family, the way you show up for your spouse and your children, and your work is just, it's incredible. When we really just throw up the surrender flag, and just make that decision. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I have no idea what's going to happen or how it's going to happen, but I'm open and willing to try something different. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. That is great advice.
Mhm.
Um, so, can you, before we go here, can you just tell us the website again where people can find out more
Yeah.
information?
It's saveawarrior.org/apply. But if you just browse around on the website, go to, like, how it works, our purpose, if you just look at those things, um, prior to, something's going to resonate with you. You know, we really, language really is everything. And we've so carefully languaged our website that truly aligns with the experience that you're going to have at Save a Warrior, you know. Um, but you cannot read that and not, and something not speak to you.
Right.
This really is a hero's journey type of experience,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And, you know, the refusal of the call, you know, the more we refuse the call to, you know, for our own healing, it doesn't get any better. I'll
Right.
just say that.
Yeah.
It never gets better, only worse. Yeah. So, you know, we need to hear the call and so we can return to treasure.
And answer
Yeah.
it. Answer the
Yeah.
call. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really
Yeah.
great. Great
Don't deny
information.
yourself that healing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're worthy of that. You know, I'm worthy of that, you know, and you're worthy of that, whoever's listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. So true.
Hmm.
Suzette, thank you so much for your time. And thank you so much for sharing a piece of yourself with us and all that you're doing at Save a Warrior and all the great stuff. Truly amazing work. And I'm sure there's somebody listening that needs to hear your words today. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Tracy. I appreciate you for asking. It's been an honor and a privilege to spend this time with you.
Hello, viewers and listeners. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Tactical Treasures podcast. We've just finished up a very enlightening conversation with Suzette Heller, who is a U.S. Army veteran and is currently the Director of Development at Save a Warrior. Save a Warrior, a 501c nonprofit, is a groundbreaking intervention for active duty military, veterans, and first responders. As the first National Center of Excellence for Complex Post Traumatic Stress, they provide a heroic invitation for healing that moves beyond treating symptoms to address the root causes of trauma. By blending modern neuroscience and psychology with ancient wisdom, their holistic, evidence based approach has garnered a 99.9% success rate in the prevention of suicide. They empower those who serve to overcome childhood adversity and past trauma, allowing them to reclaim their authentic selves and transition from a state of survival to a life of infinite possibility. At Save a Warrior, they don't just preserve life, they pioneer a world where every warrior is fully supported in their journey toward lasting self realization. To learn more about Save a Warrior, to apply for the program, or to donate, go to saveawarrior.org. Thank you for tuning in. And don't forget, you can find Tactical Treasures podcast on all your favorite podcast platforms. American Grit on our website, tacticaltreasurespodcast.com, as well as our dedicated YouTube channel. We are now airing on Reese Cross America Radio on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern and Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern for the encore. You can also find Reese Cross America Radio on the iHeartRadio app, the Odyssey app, and the TuneIn app. We're also proud to share that our JDog Foundation is a Wreaths Across America sponsorship group. For each $17 Veterans Wreath that you sponsor, $5 goes directly back to the JDog Foundation, whose mission is to prevent veteran suicide and heal veterans' mental health and PTS. You can donate right now at wreathsacrossamerica.org/JDog. Again, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again on another podcast real soon. Bye-bye now.